Congressman, I start with you. The committee has made clear in their letters to these gentlemen that it already has a lot of testimony implicating their participation in a plot to overturn the election result. How do you see today's subpoenas, which are historic as a tactic, but I'm guessing as an investigator, seem pretty necessary to their probe?
Nicole, the subpoenas absolutely are historic, but so was the insurrection that Donald Trump incited, and these witnesses are relevant. They all communicated in a way with Donald Trump or his legal team, and you really have to ask yourself, why would they not want to cooperate? If you could help your country, if you truly believe in America first, doesn't America first mean that you work with the committee, the bipartisan committee that is looking into what happened that day and to ensure that the next time we have to do this, a day like that never happens again?
And they each have very specific pieces of the investigation that the committee is seeking to press them on. This is from the original letter to Scott Perry when the committee was asking him to come in voluntarily. They wrote this: "We have received evidence from multiple witnesses that you had an important role in the efforts to install Mr. Clark as acting attorney general. We're also aware that you had multiple text and other communications with Trump's former chief of staff regarding Mr. Clark. And we also have evidence indicating that in that time frame, you sent communications to the former chief of staff using the encrypted Signal app. In addition, we have information indicating that you communicated at various relevant times with the White House and others involved in relevant topics, including regarding allegations that the Dominion voting machines have been corrupted." I guess I'd go back to that original letter because it's clear that, and I think these letters went out in January, the request for voluntary conversations with the committee. It feels like the evidence about these five gentlemen's conduct is already known to the committee. What is the subpoena for?
Well, the subpoena is to get their firsthand account, Nicole. Again, they worked with the legal team, communicated with Donald Trump. We heard in Kevin McCarthy's own words that he was calling Donald Trump to tell him that he thought he should resign. So what did Donald Trump say when Kevin McCarthy called Donald Trump? And also, Kevin McCarthy said that Donald Trump acknowledged that he did bear some responsibility. And so to have that firsthand account would be incredibly helpful. Also, Nicole, I just want to point out, Kevin McCarthy famously bragged that he put together the Benghazi Commission where Hillary Clinton testified for 11 hours. We're not seeking 11 hours of testimony from Kevin McCarthy, but we had over 1,000 witnesses come forward. And so what makes him think that he's more important than those witnesses, or he has some special privilege that those witnesses did not? Again, this just comes down to, do you want to help your country or not? Do you have something to hide, or do you have something that could be helpful?
And I mean, I guess the inconvenient truth for Kevin McCarthy is if he wants to hide something, we've already got the tapes. Here he is telling two New York Times reporters that Donald Trump was responsible for January 6th.
Let me be very clear to all of you, and I've been very clear to the president. He bears responsibilities for his words and actions. No ifs, ands, or buts. I asked him personally today, does he hold responsibility for what happened? Does he feel bad about what happened? He told me he does have some responsibility for what happened. And he needs to acknowledge that.
And then we've all witnessed the excruciating exercise of Kevin McCarthy putting his dignity back in the tube of toothpaste. Let me play that.
Would you personally reach out to the president for more support?
I've already talked to the president.
What did the president say to you when you called him?
He put out a tweet as well.
You said you spoke with the president. What did the president say he would do?
I know he had put a tweet out there.
I was the first person to contact him when the riots was going on. He didn't see it. What he ended the call was telling me he'll put something out to make sure to stop this. And that's what he did. He put a video out later.
Quite a lot later. And it was a pretty weak video. But I'm asking you specifically, did he say to you, I guess some people are more concerned about the election than you are?
No, listen, my conversations with the president are my conversations with the president.
I mean, we all know that he saw it. He was watching. It's been reported and confirmed from evidence that we've already learned about. And what he put out was, you know, to the insurrectionists, we love you. We love you. That's what he put out. Why is it as important to you, at least, why Kevin McCarthy changes his tune? I mean, do you want to know what he learns between saying that, you know, Donald Trump bears responsibility for what happened, he needed to acknowledge that, talking about the 25th Amendment or impeachment or resignation, but not leaving the door open to Trump staying, and then having these sort of mealy-mouthed performances and interviews where he refuses to say any of the things he said? Do you want to understand if there's an intervening event there?
Yes, Kevin McCarthy had a brief affair with integrity. Then he went to his old ways of lying and pledging his allegiance not to America, but to Donald Trump. So what happened? What did Donald Trump tell him? Did Donald Trump threaten him? We know that McCarthy is laser focused on becoming Speaker, and that's about it. And so is this about having Trump's support for Speaker, and that if he was to speak out, he wouldn't have that support? Again, it's about making sure we know what happened that day, and we can guarantee to the American people, because we did an investigation, we're not going to let something like this happen again. And either you want to help or you want to hurt this investigation. And it looks like Kevin McCarthy and the others want to hurt the investigation.